What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Supergirl Season 5, Episode 10, the bottle episode. What is this? Okay? What is this? I need to know. Because I'm not supposed to get excited for Supergirl. Like, this is not okay. We had a deal, Supergirl. You're supposed to be trash and garbage completely all the way throughout, and I'm just supposed to sit here and be able to riff on it and, like, make a bunch of jokes about how bad it is and really release my aggression because I have a lot of pent-up aggression from how dumb the world is. This is the chance to express that, and then you're going to go and get me excited for this half of the season? Come on. It's ridiculous. No, but with that being said, I mean, a lot to be excited about. It feels weird. Now, that's not to say this entire episode was perfect, because there are some things that I was not a big fan of, but, I mean, for the most part, there was more good than bad. I'm much more excited for the rest of the season. Can't wait to see what they're going to do with it, all the possibilities. Now, I'm sure there's probably going to be stuff that's still going to piss me off, because it's still very clearly the show that wants to make sure we know their political views and how they feel about the world, and make sure they pander to everybody that wants to watch their show, basically. So there's still that, but the story and all the rest of the elements around that stuff are good enough that I can put up with it. And that's part of the problem that this show has had, is that not only does it like to pander and just push this political propaganda and all of this stuff, aside from that, the stories have also not been that interesting, and the characters have not been that interesting. So it's been hard to watch. But at this point now, I'm actually excited. They've done enough with the story, the writing behind it, the characters that they've now brought in. I'm ready to see where it's going to go. So, let's go ahead and talk about, first of all, the one thing that I was not really into this episode, and that's pretty much everything to do with Brainy, and I realize that's a big part of the episode, but aside from how it ends, seeing Brainy basically become his true self and decide he's going to help Lex Luthor take on Leviathan, aside from that stuff, everything else was just not that interesting. This whole, there's an evil Brainy, and he shrunk his world, and he wants to release it, and then these witches that were the ones that released Rain, they're here, but they're from a different Earth, and they're trying to help him open it. And I don't know, I just don't really care about it, and then on top of that, they tried to make me care about Brainy and Nia, which I don't. And that's part of the problem, is they based a lot of these final scenes with him on this whole notion of he's going to lose Nia. He's worried about losing Nia. He's not sure if he wants to show the true side of himself because he's worried he's going to lose Nia. And that's why I couldn't get into it, because I don't really care about them as a couple. So I hated the fact that they tried to get so much emotion out of that thought of, I don't want to lose Nia. Because if you haven't given us a reason to care about this couple, then we're not going to get behind his motivation as to why he doesn't want to take off the personality inhibitors. The theory of the personality inhibitors, though, I did like that. I did like the fact that his father saw what I guess his mom did, essentially minimizing a world and bottling it up for him and being like, here, you like the snow? Have this world. Like, it's kind of a crazy thought, but he saw that side of him whenever he tried to take that world away from him. He saw that part of his mom in him, and decided to put three personality inhibitors on top of that on him to basically say, no, you're not going to be yourself. And it is kind of interesting to see what they're going to do with that part of it, because he's so much different now. He's not talking like this all the time, and very robotic and very kind of goofy sounding. Like, that's really what I think made Brainy not as interesting of a character to me. It was hard to, like, really, I guess, take him seriously, because most of the time he seemed like such a comic book character. And I know that's weird because it's a comic book based show, but something about it, everybody else is talking so realistically and normally, and he's just talking like this the whole time, and I'm going to sound like I'm a superhero, and haha. So now that he's got much more personality, honestly, seeing him act as these different versions of himself, kind of interesting. The only one that I couldn't get behind was the evil one, and that's just because I liked the kind of nervous side of him, but then all of a sudden, like, when he's found out, he does that very cliche, like, you found me out. Okay, well, I'm going to push my hair back out of my eyes, and now I'm going to show you who I really am. I thought it could have been much more interesting if it was just this scared version of him really wanted his world back and he was willing to kill to get it done. He didn't have to be this super evil, like, oh, now I am going to talk very slowly and evilly, and I might as well be a James Bond villain. I didn't need that side of him. So that was the only part that I couldn't really get into as far as that's concerned. And then, you had the other two. One was just very much like a normal, which I think is going to be kind of what he is now, just very kind of plain, acting like a normal human and stuff. And then there was the female version of him, which, again, like I said, they like to pander. So, of course, they made a female version of him, but they couldn't just flip flop it. No, she also was married to another woman because we want to make sure we represent everybody here, guys. That was just something that she sort of threw that in there. She's like, I was married and she never left me. I'm like, oh, she. I like the fact that you made sure to say she there so we know that's where you swing. Good job, because that defines everything about you now. And that's what frustrates me, is whenever they feel like that defines their character when there's so much more to people than that. That's what really bugs me whenever they decide to do that. But I mean, ultimately, she ended up being okay. She did have the information about Leviathan at the end and really showed that she's dealt with them seemingly the most out of all these Brainiacs that showed up. So kind of interested to see exactly, I guess, what he learned from her, if we are going to find out what he learned from her. But obviously this is what sets up the team up between him and Lex, which I love that idea because, I mean, just working with Lex Luthor in general already gets me excited. And the fact, they brought him back, obviously, but everything that they did at the beginning of this episode with him got me so excited for the rest of this season, because we finally see what he made the deal with the Monitor about. Because, I even mentioned it. I'm like, we never found out what he asked the Monitor about for Lena. Well, here we are. Apparently he wanted the Lena from that original Earth brought to this new Earth as well. Which kind of goes to show that the Monitor, I don't know, it's weird, but it feels like the Monitor knew all of this was going to happen, but he said that Oliver's death wasn't shown to him like this. Like, this is not how Oliver died, and yet Oliver did need to die to become this thing after death that could restart the world, basically. I don't know. It just seems odd. It's like, I didn't foresee this, but everything's still going to work out okay. But yeah, so seeing, though, that he brought this Lena over, and also he recruited his mom from this new Earth as well. I mean, that's exciting stuff. Because now we don't have to deal with the stupid plotline of this new Lena figuring out Supergirl is Kara, which perfectly fine with, because I think it's a dumb plotline anyway. And I don't know how to feel about it at first, but I'm kind of glad that she told her, like, oh, I already know everything. Like, basically told her, no, I'm the Lena from your Earth. Just because at first I was kind of like, it would have been interesting to see if she had sort of played it off like, oh, I'm new Lena, I didn't know this, thank you for telling me, and tried to be friendly with her to basically use her later. But now that I'm thinking about it, I am kind of glad that they just sort of pushed that aside, so we didn't have to worry about it, didn't have to deal with it. We can focus where the focus needs to be, which is Lena, Lex, and their mom, and Brainiac all working together to stop Leviathan, while Kara probably works... She's probably going to want to stop Leviathan, but also stop Lex at the same time, which I feel like is going to sort of be too much for her. So I do wonder if at any point she's just going to finally realize, okay, I don't trust Lex, but Leviathan's a bigger threat, so let's work with him to deal with them first. And I don't know, it gets me excited for that. But yeah, everything to do with that, seeing that, I mean, Supergirl will at least have to play nice, because in this world, everybody sees her and Lex as, like, conspirators, basically, and working together. So she'll at least have to play nice in front of the cameras, which I find an interesting concept, and I hope they play with that a bit. And then, what else? Oh, we see the blonde lady that works for Leviathan. I guess Leviathan does exist, but they're not as prominent right now. And I wonder if it's because the blonde lady, whose name is Gemma, I think, I wonder if it's because she's in charge, and so maybe they're a bit more secretive because she's not as obvious as the other guy was, whose name escapes me at the moment, the Earthbender guy. I'll probably remember it later. But yeah, we already see that apparently Andrea, she never left. Russell still died though, so that's kind of an interesting tidbit that they threw in. But it was only after Lex tried to buy his corporation that he died, and so William now thinks that Lex may have had something to do with it. But it could still be Leviathan ultimately. I don't know. I hope we explore that a bit more. But yeah, Andrea, I think she was. I'm pretty sure she like left at the end right before the crisis, and now this version of Andrea is working alongside Gemma, and Gemma's like part of her board of directors. So, I mean, yeah, it sets up for a very interesting relationship, working relationship and all of that. But I do hope we sort of discuss what's changed in this new world, how Leviathan is set up differently. And it is kind of interesting because it's almost like basically a reset. We dealt with Leviathan a bit when this other guy was in charge, and now we're dealing with a new Leviathan where this other lady has been in charge instead. So are they going to be better? Are they going to be more difficult? I don't know. But again, I'm excited. And then finally, the other thing to get really excited about is Winn. Winn is coming back, it looks like, maybe, hopefully not just a cameo. But apparently he got brought in from, when the Earths collided. I don't know how they're going to handle this. I don't know how they're going to explain it, since technically he was in the future in the original Earth. But I don't know. Like, it's kind of a weird thought process. Like, he was brought over from the same Earth, but a different time. So how does that work? How would he end up back here? Unless it's something different. Maybe it's a Winn from another Earth that we never met. I don't know. I'm just excited to have him back on the show because I've talked about it in previous reviews, but he was probably my favorite part of the show before he left. Just because he had such great one-liners and delivery, and the acting was great. The only time I wasn't a fan is when they tried to give him a love interest with this weird alien chick, but aside from that, he was always a lot of fun, so I'm glad to have him back. So I'm excited. It's a weird feeling, but I'm excited. So let's go. Episode 2, see you there. And now episode 11, Back from the Future? Yeah, Back from the Future Part 1. Get it? Because Back to the Future, but it's Back from the Future because he came back in time. But it's great to have Winn back. It really is. Just, even though at first we didn't get our Winn back, eventually we did. And it's just so nice to have him back in the show. Maybe for now, I'm not sure if he's going to go back to the future. Probably soon. But, I mean, it's just nice to have him for the moment because, again, there's just something about the way he delivers the one-liners and the way he acts. It's just very enjoyable and it's very funny for me to watch. So it was a good episode for him in that regard because it was just nice to see him again. His acting is very solid still. And on that, I mean, his acting as Toyman, also very solid. It's very interesting because, again, talking about Batwoman, we've been seeing one actress play this crazy woman that I've never felt once is truly crazy. I always felt like it's somebody putting on an act. It's somebody pretending to be crazy. But I've never actually seen an actual crazy person whenever I watch her. And, we got to see a different version of her come in as her original self before she went crazy. And again, they seem like the exact same person, just one was acting crazy, the other one was just normal. But it still felt like, I mean, she's still acting crazy. She's not actually crazy. Here, we get to see Winn, and we get to see crazy toy maker, or toy man. And I bought it, they were two completely different characters because they should be. They're two different versions of Winn. They should not look like the same person, just with one person that's acting. So I know that sounds weird and I'm not really explaining it right, but when I look at Toyman, I don't see somebody acting like they're crazy. I see a crazy person. There's something about that little twinge in his eye that he's got, the way he delivers his lines. Some of it was kind of the stereotypical crazy that I've seen Alice display in Batwoman, but it was done in a way that I felt like it was more natural. Whereas when I look at Alice, I feel like she's just seen other crazy people do this before, so now she's copying that to make people think that she's crazy. Like, that's how it feels whenever I watch her. So, got that out of the way. I am a little confused about the story, though, in one aspect that we see, Winn does manage to catch up to himself. The Toyman, I guess I should say. And then Toyman just blows up the whole building and stuff and dies in the process. And somehow that means now that Winn is just cleared of all charges. And what I find weird about that, I mean, I guess on the one hand, it shows that okay, if this were actually him, his self, then he would be dead. His future self wouldn't exist. So I guess maybe that's their reasoning. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this still seems like it should be like, no, Winn did this and then he died and now he's a martyr, so he should still, like, I don't know, the future version of him, I guess, should still be looked into. Maybe I don't know. It just kind of something that whenever he killed himself, I'm thinking, okay, so now they can't prove that this wasn't the Winn that came back from the future, that this was a different version of him on a different Earth. I thought they needed to catch him to prove that. So the fact that they didn't, I thought was going to throw a wrench in the plans, but I guess it just fixed everything. Although it seems like he had a plan anyway, to, I guess, hack into something in the DEO. I don't know, but that's the only part of the story that I was just a little confused on. I feel like they were a little too vague as far as explaining how that all wrapped itself up. The stuff with Nia and Brainy still not interesting. We finally see Brainy reveals the truth to Winn in this episode, but again, it's mostly focused on the fact that he feels bad for hurting and lying to Nia. And again, I don't care about that. I care more about the fact that he is lying to his friends because he feel like he has to, because he's working with Lex, and just seeing how that affected him. He thought this was going to be a simple, like, okay, we bring Toyman back, which then will bring Winn back from the future, and then we'll catch Toyman and we'll resolve it while Lex goes and gets the information he needs. Problem solved. But as he pointed out, Lex is not very logical. A lot of what he does is a bit more madness, which, I mean, kind of, but also he does work with logic as well. I don't know. It seems very much like if he were working with the Joker because, the Joker was the only answer to stopping Leviathan, I could see it a lot more that, I mean, the Joker is just anarchy. Like, he's crazy. He's chaos. Lex Luthor has never really been like, I mean, aside from, I guess, Jesse Eisenberg's, who just was acting like the Joker, basically. But even this Lex, like, he wasn't about chaos and insanity and, ooh, I'm crazy. He was a very logical person. He played chess. It was just, it was basically chess with sacrifices. His logic, he doesn't care about the best possible outcome. He just cares about winning. He's willing to basically sacrifice everyone on the board as long as he gets his way. So I guess in that, on the one hand, it doesn't match up with Brainy's logic where he's trying to do all of this without any casualties. But that's not how they put it. They point it as though he's just crazy and he's chaos and, oh, how do we stop him? I don't know. I don't really see Lex as that. So I feel like they did a bad job of explaining that, I guess. Or Brainy did a bad job of explaining. I don't know if it was just writing or if they don't really understand their Lex Luthor, but that was something else that was just kind of, it put me off a little bit. William, still don't care about that. And again, they've already now, they shared a look. Oh, they were so close to each other. Ooh, and now he's coming over for friends night. Ooh, they're new friends, but maybe something more. So I called it from the very beginning because they can't have two attractive people bickering without them hooking up at some point, because that's how CW think loves works. So, but don't care about that. We do see Lex gets information about Leviathan, so I guess it will be, again, everything to do with Lex and Lena right now is very interesting, and seeing them figuring out more, working together. Lena gets the Q waves that she's been looking for. It's just all very interesting. Like, I enjoy these storylines and I enjoy what they're doing with them so far. And it's, again, not something I expected to say. I didn't expect to be enjoying much out of this second half of the season with the crisis being over, but they're really doing a good job of taking the possibility of what the crisis led to and really running with it. The different changes that happened because of the crisis. I like what they're doing with it so far. The only other thing that I can think of to just sort of talk about, because I just kind of had to roll my eyes a little bit, is the whole, when the toy maker goes online and he's just like, I need supporters, and all these people are following him and stuff. And they're just like, I don't understand. How can people do this? Oh, well, the internet brings out the worst of people online. Just like, it's very ironic because I know what they're talking about. I know who they're talking about, But what's ironic is it happens all around. So much so to the point where, if one political side threatens the other political side, but they're not backed by, everybody as a whole, the media and the people who run the media, they make a threat, they're done. We don't see them again. Even if they make a statement that's construed as a threat by the other side, they're done. Whereas that other side, they make threats and threats. They worship people dying that were on the other side. All of this, and we don't see any problems with them. We don't see anybody being taken down for that. And it's just interesting because I know this show, and I know the people who run this show and the people who watch this show, and they're talking about these. They're talking about these people, the ones that do already get censored and taken down and stuff. And of course they threw in, oh yeah, there's an anti-trolling legislation. I'm like, yeah, great. So basically we're saying that in the future, just no free speech, guys. It's only freedom of speech if the people in charge say it's okay to say that. Just like, this is not a hopeful thing. This is a terror thing. 1984 was written. You've read that, right? Probably not, more than likely, because anybody who wants people to step in and censor all of this stuff and be like, oh, more trolling. It's like, most trolls are just idiots that spew whatever to get a reaction out of people. Like, half of them don't even mean what they're saying. They're just saying it because they know it'll piss people off. And you're really telling me that getting those people off the internet will just make the world a better place? No. They'll find another avenue to get attention because that's what they really want. It's just, again, they act like all of the solutions, even going back to whenever they tried to do the gun control message, they tried to act like the solution is just so simple. I mean, just make these powerful weapons that are non-lethal, guys. I mean, don't you have a tech genius in our world that can do that? Just do it. Come on, it's easy. Just do it. I mean, I know that all the bad guys are using lethal weapons, but we can use non-lethal weapons, right? I mean, that's a thing. That's a thing. It's like basically a phaser that doesn't exist in our world. That's a thing. Just like, yes, please keep showing us how easy it is to get rid of all of these bad things that you see are bad, and just get rid of them. There's legislation. Just take it down. We're done. And then boom, world's a better place. It's just kind of funny to me. But anyways, that's my little rant on that. On to the third of these episodes. See you there. And now episode 12, Back from the Future Part 2. No. Come on, Supergirl. Just as I was starting to get excited, you just have to go and say, ha ha ha, psych. You got all excited for our show? Oh, no. We're going to take away this character that you were excited for and bring back a character that you're going to probably facepalm throughout the entirety of the next episode. Assuming that's how long he lasts, because I'm hoping he only lasts one freaking episode. Oh. Thing is, I don't really remember much about the character of Mr. Whatever. I don't care. I don't really remember much about him because his episode sucked. His episode was trash. It was literally a Valentine's Day episode. It sucked so much ass. So now he's back. So we can see what could have happened with Kara and Lena if she had made different decisions. Instead of just accepting the here and now. Because, I don't know. It's a great message, right? You should go back and change your past. Because you can. And I'm sure that's probably what's going to end up happening. Going to be what ends up happening. Is she's going to have a chance to go back and change something. And then she's going to realize, no, I have to accept the consequences of my actions. I can't just change the past because it's easy. Because it's convenient. We don't need a whole episode to get to that. I feel like we've already had a couple moments now where there has been that feeling of what if things were different with Lena, and she's kind of hoped for it. She's kind of wished she could go in and change things, but she can't. So I don't know. I'm not looking forward to next episode now, and that's really sad because these 3 episodes have actually been decent, and now it's just I feel like it's gonna go right back to shit. So, but anyways, we'll talk about the other thing in this episode that really didn't work, and that's still William. First of all, I nearly had to pause the episode and just go ahead and give my thoughts on the whole episode just from that first opening 5 minutes. Because not only do you absolutely just ruin a fantastic song. I mean, the music in the show, hit or miss. You know, I haven't talked about it, but starting off with It's Gonna Be Me, or It's Gonna Be May. Starting off with that one in the first of these episodes, not great. I Have the Tiger in the second one, good choice. And then you start off the episode with Africa. And I'm thinking, cool, we're going to have Africa. Except for the fact that it's going to be a duo between stupid William and idiot Kara. And they're going to do their little, oh, are they gonna? Are they not gonna? Are they gonna? Are they not gonna? Are they? I need to know. Like, oh my gosh, guys, she wants him so bad, even though she hasn't wanted him at all. Like, it's so funny because for me, I've seen what they're doing since episode 1, but I've not actually seen them show any sort of romantic chemistry until this episode. Even when she invited him, like, they had that one moment where they're standing side by side, and then she's like, oh, I forgot how late it was. Like, just out of nowhere. Then she invites him for game night. Everything seems fine. They're friendly. And all of a sudden, at the beginning of this episode, oh, you invited William? Oh, it's not like that. Oh my gosh. Like, just out of nowhere. Suddenly now they're, oh, guys, aren't they so cute as a couple? Now they're singing Africa together horribly. By the way, again, you ruined that song for me. So not a great start. And then it just keeps getting worse. Because then she has to lie to him, and then she feels bad about lying to him, and then she and Winn literally stop in the middle of their time-sensitive mission to have like a 2-minute conversation about them starting a relationship. Because that's what we need to do, guys. It's so funny, too, because he's been so focused on the whole taking down Lex thing because he's convinced Lex had Russell killed, that this doesn't make sense for his character at all to suddenly just be like, hey, you want to go out sometime? Like, that doesn't make sense. He should be, like, he was so focused. He actually didn't do his job. He didn't go to cover the Obsidian release, which I'm surprised Andrea didn't, like, fire him for, because he just didn't show up. So he didn't do that because he was so focused on Lex, but then in the very next episode, he's like, do you want to go out sometime? I know I've not been focused on you at all until now, but now all of a sudden you're all I can see. Jeez. So, it doesn't make any sense, and then they have this stupid conversation, even though they should be hurrying and stopping Toyman, but no, let's talk about it, because relationships take the precedence over life or death situations, obviously. And then at the end of the episode, despite all of this talk, she goes up, and then he's like, oh, I got this for your grandma, which obviously she lied about. And then she's like, oh, I can't do this. I can't lie to him. I can't do it. And we're supposed to care. And I would like to find one person who cared about this relationship, and I want them to give me a good reason as to why. Because we've not seen anything about who William is, aside from the fact that, one, he's two-faced. You know, he's willing to go undercover and act like he loves Andrea just to get close to her so he can find out about his best friend. So we haven't really seen the real him yet. And also the fact that he works in a homeless shelter. And if that's really all they think we need to see for us to care about this relationship, then the writers of the show are more shallow than any of the characters in their show. Any of the characters in Batwoman, for that matter. So it's just a migraine forming that I can already feel. I can already feel where we're going with this. It's going to be bullshit throughout the rest of the season. And now it seems like we're getting more focus on it, because I'm sure she's going to feel like, oh, what if I hadn't lied to him from the beginning? What if I just told him the truth? And we're going to focus on that next episode. And then I'm sure at some point she's going to just reveal her identity to him, because who cares about secret identities anymore in this world, right? It's just so dumb. So dumb. But let's talk about the good stuff and the interesting stuff. Because, yeah, I mean, Toyman, again, in this episode, very well done. And I'm really sad to see Winn go, because I enjoy watching him act. Seeing him as Toyman and then seeing him as Winn, it really works. Even when he's talking about stuff that I don't give a shit about, like Kara and William, I still am invested in what he's saying because he delivers the lines so well. And he's just got this good charisma about him that it's still funny. I'm sitting here going like, we don't need to be talking about this, but I still laughed at a couple of his lines in that scene. So yeah, I don't know why they only brought him back for 2 episodes. Why they didn't think of a storyline to keep Winn around for longer, because I feel like it was very needed. But the whole storyline with his father was a little out of nowhere. It felt like they wanted to give him kind of a proper send off, I guess. Like they brought him back, and I guess they wanted to give him some character development, so it didn't seem kind of pointless as to why he was here. So like, I know, let's have him reconcile with his father by the end of it. So it does make it feel very much like, okay, this is it. Like he's not coming back after this because they've given him like his final story. Um, so it was a little rushed, but I mean they only had 2 episodes to really work it out. So I guess it kind of makes sense why it was rushed. And then Lex, of course, in this again we're seeing just how clever he is. You know, really he figured Toyman would break into the network, which would allow him to have Brainy take that code and give it to him, as well as get Alex out of the way, because he figured the more stuff that he put in there and the more stuff that he used to kind of make her feel dirty for working with him, the quicker she would get out, so he could put Brainy in charge. And now all of a sudden, he's got the CEO of the DEO, not the CEO, the director. It's weird, but he's got the director of the DEO now working for him to take on Leviathan. So now all of a sudden he's just got this even more powerful organization helping him out. On top of that, you know, building that friendship with Gemma, which it's funny because at the end of it, she's like, "Yes, we have Lex right in our right, or the Luthers right where we want them," and all I can think is, or are you right where Lex wants you? Because we've seen, ooh, something that's interesting. I didn't bring it up, but something that is going to be interesting to see whether they talk about it or not is the fact that Leviathan was simply using Lex for whatever grand plans they had, you know, last season. So that feeling of, wait, I was being used? Like, I'm sure Lex doesn't feel like that very often. So it almost feels like this has become very personal for him because of that. Possibly, maybe, I don't know. I hope they bring it up at some point, because that would be a really cool storyline to tackle. But now that he knows who Leviathan is and they're on his radar, I feel like he's got them right where he wants them. You know, thinking that they've got everything under control, when in reality he's basically building this this plan to take him down. So yeah, I like this whole chess match that's been built up. Am I upset that Supergirl on her side of things, they're not really involved with it? Yes, but also I feel like they would have a lot of difficulty, you know, because I think about like the Blacklist. You know, I was trying to think of what it reminded me of. You think about the Blacklist, what Raymond Reddington does, you know, sending the team on these hunts basically for people, and in the end, there's always a plan to it. There's always something he gets out of it. I don't think Kara would be okay with being that person that's like, oh, okay, I'll go work for this criminal and get him what he wants while also saving the day. Like, I don't think she would be okay with that. So I feel like they had to make sure that it's not her that's helping, it's Brainy. So I feel like at some point they'll figure it out. I honestly thought they were about to have Brainy tell Alex in this episode, but he came up with a reason as to why he worked against her. But it does sort of make me wonder, is there going to be a point where Kara's going to realize what Lex is doing, and she's going to start to realize that Leviathan is a big enough threat that she needs to stop them? Or is it going to be something a bit more simplistic, where Lex essentially takes over Leviathan and now he's in control of it and whatever they're doing, and so now Kara's going to have to stop him again, but now he's got the whole power of Leviathan, which makes him even more of a threat. I don't know. I kind of hope they don't go that route, just because last season was all about stopping Lex in the end. I would like it if this season was about stopping Leviathan, which maybe builds up to next season where Lex maybe has a bit more power, maybe is a bit more of a threat, but I don't want it to be where he's the main villain by the end of this season, or even next season. I would like him to sort of be a mainstay, where he's an antagonist, he's somebody who can get in your way, but he's never really the bad guy overall. That's just kind of how I feel about it. I'm assuming they probably just made him the villain because that's the simpler route. And, you know, the quicker you get Lex out of the story, the faster the good guys are back in control. Because, I mean, the way they've written Lex, it's essentially, there's no way Supergirl and her team are going to be able to beat him, because they're not nearly even close to being as smart as he is. So it's gonna take a miracle basically for them to stop him. Like last season where all of a sudden the plants gave Supergirl their sunlight energy. Oh, like that type of bullshit is the only way that they can beat Lex. So I just hope he becomes an antagonistical good guy from here on out, because that's a lot more fun for me than him being the villain and essentially the good guys having to rely on luck to beat him. So, but yeah, I think that's about it. I guess, well, I haven't really talked about Obsidian and their whole thing. They're basically making the Matrix, and they're making it to where people can just put on the lenses and essentially live there. Like the food will give their bodies nourishment. So it's the Matrix, basically. I'm surprised nobody's made that reference yet, but I'm just like, that's what it is. You're living in this virtual world where essentially your body is able to live because it gets the nutrients it needs and all of this. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I don't know why Leviathan wants it, but I mean, it's going to be a power control for sure. Like there's that feeling of you're no longer in control anymore because it's the world that you create, but in reality they are giving you this technology and they can control the technology, and it gives them a lot of power. So it's kind of a terrifying thought, and they're exploring it like it's maybe a good thing, but maybe a bad thing. In my opinion, I look at that and I'm like, that's a terrifying thought of just like you're living in this virtual world where the real world doesn't even matter to you anymore. That's a worrying concept. I mean, the Matrix was not seen as a good thing. So, but anyways, with all that being said, that's it for these 3 episodes. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these episodes? Let me know what we can talk about and discuss, all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe, future Supergirl reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.